Okay, so I think we're live now. So we can kick around and wait for people to join, or we can kick things off and say hello, welcome,
Well,
drink
I
some
think
tea.
first of all, my tea's waiting for me.
Drink some tea that
So-
way around so that the people can see my
Your Lord of the Rings T-shirt and your Lord of the
matching
Rings
mug.
and your Lord of the Rings mug, and I've got my elephant mug.
Careful, that nearly spilled.
There's the front. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, and then there's the baby at the back. And the reason why I have an elephant mug is because this is all about our Collector's Corner. We're on episode 3 now, aren't we?
Yes, episode 3 of our Collector's Corner, talking about Lord of the Rings, the card game.
Because we are we play board games.
Board game collectors.
Because we are that board game show. And we're doing this series called The Collector's Corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is our very first live streaming of The Collector's Corner. This is our very first live streaming on that board game show. So this is number one. And so
please do bear with us while we
kind of figuring it
figure
out
if
as we go.
things work or not.
Let's tell them what happened 5 minutes ago. You know what happened 5 minutes ago? We were already set to go, and then we discovered one of the labs wasn't working. It just wasn't working. We tried this and that and the other. I mean, just a few minutes before we were about to sit down and talk to you, it stopped working. So we put a shotgun up here. You can't see it, obviously, because we made sure it was out of frame.
But it is a bit far away. So
But it is a bit far away.
if the
So
sound is a
there-
bit hollow and echoey, that's why.
We do actually have some nice Rode lavs, which we've used, and tonight, at a few minutes before we go
5 minutes
live,
before we go live, it decides to kick off and stop working.
on our very first ever live streaming for that board game show. So that was a bit unfortunate. But here we are. But whoever's there now, thank you for joining us. We do appreciate your presence. We appreciate your time and being here with us. But let's begin with saying this is all about our Collector's Corner. That's why I was showing my elephant mug, because I collect elephants, but that's not got much to do with the fact that we're board game players and we are collectors as well. So we don't think it's a rare thing to be collectors if you're a board game enthusiast, because we think most of the people that we know that are board game enthusiasts collect board games. And one such collection is this Lord of the Rings. We've got, I think we counted them 9 or 10 or 11, I don't know.
Something
anymore.
like that. Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood.
Oh, I'm Sonja Wood.
And today, on our next episode of our Collector's Corner series, we're talking to you all about The Lord of the Rings, the card game. Designed by Nate French. It's a card game for 1 to 4 players. Well, 1 to 2 players out of the box, but you can buy 2 boxes and make it 1 to 4. And it's a fully cooperative adventure card game, collectible card game kind of thing from Fantasy Flight Games.
And when did we get this game? Very long time ago.
Many years ago. I think it might have been our first
More than 10.
Lord of the Rings game. And this being our Collector's Corner, we have several Lord of the Rings games. If
I
you've
think
seen the
10.
first 2 episodes, we've spoken about Journeys in Middle-earth.
With all the minis.
All the minis.
All the little extras.
Yeah, no minis in this one. This is just cards, and more cards.
And I enjoyed playing it when we first got it. I really enjoyed playing it until we got to Shelob's lair. Until we got to the
All the
spiders.
spiders.
And then I found myself not sleeping all that well. And I couldn't carry on playing it because it got me. I was so immersed in it that it actually became a little too real. And so then you carried on your own playing it, didn't you?
I've played it. It's one of my most played solo games. I've played it dozens upon dozens of times solo. And I've played through most of the core missions, scenarios in the core box. There's one that I've never been able to beat.
Sure.
But that leads into what the Lord of the Rings card game is all about. It's an LCG, which is what Fantasy Flight Games calls a living card game, which is basically them trying to trademark a version of a collectible card game or a trading card game.
And this is an instance
all of
where
these
you
things.
had to train your collectors.
Yeah.
You had to,
Because you can see 3 boxes up there, core box, and then 2 Hobbit expansions. And it took tremendous restraint to cap it
lots
at
of
that.
self-control. Yeah, because you would have just kept going.
Because I would have just kept going. There are thousands upon thousands of cards for this game. It is huge. And recently, as of recording this in 2024, they've just released a updated, revised core set. So this box came out in 2011,
Not that long ago.
and it was for 1 to 2 players out of the base game. And then to play with more players, you had to buy a second copy to get enough cards to play with more players. So now the new revised core set, I think, plays up to 4 players out of the box. So
And
that's
this
just
one is
more
only
cards.
2 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Remember.
they've been re-releasing all the expansion boxes and things. So basically how they originally released it was like I think it was it was either weekly or monthly. So every week or every month they would release a new pack, a new like mini expansion, which would be like just a small deck of cards.
And that's where
and
you
then
had
add it in,
to
add it in, add it in.
exercise self-control. Because you would have just kept on getting them.
Yeah.
So although we're collectors, I would say we're very specific collectors. We don't collect
Very
to the point
careful
of,
collectors.
We're careful collectors, yeah. And as this is the Collectors Corner series, we can talk a little bit about that, about being collectors. And we're not just collectors of board games. We know that we are collectors. We like collecting. We have a specific thing, and then we collect like the minis, for example. Now we've got the nice games, and now you're starting to build the minis for those games,
Yeah.
the ones that you can. And even like we showed on, I think it was the first episode of Collectors Corner, we showed all those little minis for Journeys
That
in
was
the
for Journeys in Middle-earth. That was in episode 2 of our Collector's Corner series.
There was a whole lot of extra little bits that you did.
All the terrain pieces, yeah.
Terrain
So I've got a
pieces.
little basic 3D printer, and on my little 3D printer, I've printed out a bunch of additional terrain pieces for Journeys in Middle-earth. So when you're having a tavern brawl, you can
Put your barrel.
have actual little barrels to flick around the table if you want to.
And Jamie painted all of these with bright blue filament,
Well,
which not painted.
Printed them with
printed
bright blue
with-
filament and
yes,
then
them
painted it away.
nice and brown and rough and ready, so they look
Yeah.
very
Lumo
realistic.
blue barrels didn't quite fit the
No,
theme.
no. So you see, it takes it to the next level and the next level. So that's what we enjoy about this hobby. It's for us, it's very, very immersive, and it can keep us, we feel, going for many, many years. In fact, I grew up with board games. Then you grew up with board games. So, I mean, it's generations now, and we've got our archive of collections, which is
Yeah, a board game archive.
board game archive, which has got very special games in it from my childhood, and so those have become part of our collection, and we wouldn't part with them because they're very special. And so, yeah, we have embraced being collectors. I think some people who are board gamers maybe feel a bit bad about being collectors. So I hope that this series encourages you in letting you know that we too, you're not alone out there if you are collectors of board games and you think, oh, maybe we're collecting too many. I suppose there does come a time where you have to be, like you said, we are careful collectors.
Yeah.
We're actually quite conservative, even though we've got a few hundred games. But we are still conservative with our choices.
Yeah.
Like you haven't got thousands and thousands of the cards for this, what's it called? Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, the card game. Well,
Yeah.
the living card game, technically.
So, we draw the line and we collect to the point where we get in the full value. I think
Yeah.
that's what we measure
Yeah, we
mostly.
don't just collect for collecting's sake. So,
No.
I mean, I'm not going to buy more content for this
If you're not going to play
if I'm
it.
not going to actually play it.
Yeah.
And what I've
Exactly.
realized is, with this one specifically, the one huge element of this living card game style of things is the deck construction part of the game, where you'll get your huge collection, your massive pool of cards from all those little mini expansions.
And then you've got to build your own.
And then you could say, okay, I'm going to play this scenario now, and these are the enemies I'm going to be facing, and these are the kinds of encounters. And now I'm going to build a deck specifically for that from all the cards I've got. And I realized that part of the game didn't appeal to me quite as much. You know, I enjoy the actual card
It was going to take a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And that's what we also started
and that
measuring.
didn't feel like time playing the game to me.
Yeah.
For someone else,
Somebody
maybe
else
it does.
would love that,
I mean,
yeah.
it must do because it's hugely successful. So there are plenty of people who do find the deck building part of it as part of the game time. For me, that didn't feel like playing the game. So it felt like I enjoy the card play of it, the actual... Once you've got your deck and you're playing, like these Hobbit expansions, solved this problem for me because they give you at the back of the rule books pre-constructed recommended decks to use for that particular scenario. So basically these two Hobbits are, I think they've got 3 or 4 scenarios in each box, and you play through the story of the Hobbit.
Nice.
So it's a saga expansion, they call it, where it's not just a little one-shot adventure. You actually play through the scenarios, and you'll gain an item out of the deck on scenario 1, which you can then use in scenario 2, and then that unlocks something else which you can then use in scenario 3, and it keeps building.
Yeah. So I think, you know what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about focusing on being collectors, because there's something else that I realized that what we do, which I'd like to tell people about, and that is how we make decisions about what we need to collect more of and what we've got enough of.
Oh, right.
And so we look at Lord of the Rings and we go, okay, we've got many hours of enjoyment out of that. This new thing's coming out. Do we want to add to this collection, to add our hours of enjoyment, add more to that? Or do we want to start a new collection over here of some new thing that's come out? That's what we do. We sort of, we're pretty analytical about it all.
Oh, very.
Yeah. And
I'm not AP for nothing.
yeah. Well, actually, on that topic, you see, Jamie's very AP, and he,
Very.
as you've just heard, he claims that he doesn't mind accepting that that's the thing.
I do mind being AP when I'm bogging down the game for everyone else at the table, but
But then I don't let you.
I accept
generally.
that it's just who I am.
Yes, but then what happens is, because our mother and my parental juices
Default.
jumps in there, and I start saying, now Jamie, that's not nice now. You're not including everybody here, and everybody's me, and it's just the two of us playing, and I can actually pull you out of that AP, and you can help me not get lost in the random.
Yeah,
Because
because
I
you'll
can.
get lost in the story and
Oh,
the
I can get
theme,
lost, and then Jamie pulls
it's
me
like,
back.
but wait, there's rules to this game.
Yeah. And we've got a funny little thing going, because Jamie goes, I do something, and he says, you can't do that. And I go, who says? Because according to me, I can do whatever I want to do this game. And he goes, the rule book.
I was actually watching a
Yeah.
playthrough thing the other day, and the guy was getting something wrong, and then he remembered this one rule and made the game way easier. He was getting absolutely annihilated in this little solo combat thing. And he remembered this one rule. It's like, oh, it's amazing how good the game is when you play by the rules.
And Jamie has such huge respect and regard for the developer and the designer. And he says to me, the rules are there. They've been very carefully, in some instances, 5-10 years of working on a game to get that rule book more and more polished so that the game plays well. It's balanced and it's all these things.
Well, I mean,
And I'm inclined just to go off on these tangents. And Jamie, the rule guy, brings it back. And he's inclined to get extremely AP. Oh, my goodness. And I've got to say to him, that's enough now. Come back.
to the point where I'll back myself into like a corner where I can't actually move on in the game if I can't figure out what the rule is supposed to be.
Yeah. I know a game that you have a big struggle with that.
I've bumped
just
into
carry
this
on
thing, and it's
playing.
like, okay, this rule
Yeah.
is a bit unclear. What do I do now? What do I do with these extra resources, for instance?
And then I say to
And
Jamie,
it's like, but it's not in the rule book. I can't find in the rule book
Doesn't
where it
matter,
tells
Jamie.
me what to do with these
It
resources.
doesn't matter. It's logical. We obviously must do this. And he goes, but it's not in the rule book. And I go, well, then because it's not in the rule book, we're going to have to decide that this is logical. Let's
And
do
then
this.
I go look it up on BGG.
Yes. And then a few days later, he goes, you know that part in the game where we weren't sure? And I can hear it coming. And then I get the story about how we're supposed to be doing it. And how
And 9
we were
times out
doing
of 10, the logical option is the right
it.
one.
But you just
But
feel better now.
I need the publisher, designer person to verify that.
So Jamie's extreme on that side. I'm extreme on the other side. And somehow or other, it works because it makes
You
for a
somehow
nice
drag
balance.
each other into
Yeah.
the middle.
Yeah, we somehow do. Sometimes better than other times. But generally, we have been playing board games for very many years. And if it wasn't working well, we wouldn't continue doing it. And it does work well. So we love it. And I was going to go back to the collection because I know that's what this particular series is about. But we will look and see, okay, my favorite kind of game is cooperative games. So then I'll have a look and see, okay, we've got these lightweight cooperative games and these medium. And so now we'll add to the collection because we'll see we're missing a few on the heavier side. And then we'll particularly look for cooperative games that are heavier so we can add them to our cooperative collection. So collection isn't always a theme, like 10 Lord of the Rings games.
Oh, no.
It could be 10
It could be a theme
cooperative games that are all independent from each other. Yeah.
So it could be a theme of cooperative games. It could be a theme of heavy games. That's what we've been doing recently, is getting into more heavy, crunchy, Euro-y type.
Yes, but Jimmy,
games.
let's not go there because I'm still recovering from that. We played a game.
On Mars.
Are you telling them? Okay. We played on Mars. I bought it for
We
Jamie.
half played on Mars.
No, this was round 3.
Oh,
remember?
right. Yes.
I bought it for Jamie for his birthday. It was a big treat. And we sat down to play the game. What does he want to do for his birthday? I'll give you one guess only. Play board games. So that's what we did. And we're going to play board games all day. And so on Mars, I'm thinking, I don't know why everybody's made a big fuss about this game. Because all I've heard is how difficult it is. And it really can do your brain in. And I'm playing it.
This
and
is on
I'm
our first
thinking,
play.
This isn't so. I mean, this isn't. I won't say it because it might sound arrogant or something. But I'm thinking it. Okay, I'm thinking this isn't that difficult. I mean, it's fairly straightforward to do this and this action and that action. And then we play the next one, and realize that one. What was the first one? Like a tutorial or something? Or
No, it was a proper game. It was just we were figuring it out
Figuring it
and learning
out.
it and
and then
seeing,
the next
okay,
one.
how does it work and what does this do and what does it... Basically, the first game of any game is a tutorial.
Mozzie. There's the random, you see. Okay. Anyway, so jumping ahead, we're on game 3. And this is the first time this has ever happened to me, ever, in any game ever. Okay. But we were about 2/3 of the way through the game, and my brain started melting. It literally felt like my brain was just starting to collapse. And I couldn't do anything. It was a physiological moment.
The first game to break you.
Yeah, and I couldn't do anything. We don't not finish games, even if they're difficult. We push through. That
Soldier
is-
on till the end.
Oh yes, that's
usually.
what we do. But this game, it broke me. That was it. It broke me, and you know why? Because I was doing a lot of things wrong. That's why it was so easy.
Well,
I was just doing my own
The
thing.
first time, we were not getting the rules right, obviously. It was our first play and
Yeah.
lots of things to take in and figure out. And then by game 3, starting to figure out how to actually play it properly. And that's when the wheels came off.
And then I realized how difficult it was and how many things to think about
Yeah.
and how many and
Because it
this-
appears actually
being
quite
on-
simple at face value.
being
It
on
doesn't
this
look
what
like
spaceship
Yeah, you got the space station side of the board and then the Mars.
and you
Side
go
of the board.
you go in the shuttle back and forth. And on this side, you can do that. And on that side, you can do different things. When you're on Mars, you can do that. But when you're in the shuttle, oh, my goodness, all of a sudden, my brain just collapsed.
And getting the timing right of, getting those actions to line up.
Oh, my goodness. Jamie, tell me, are you keeping an eye over there?
I am. We have some viewers and we have a like.
Because
thumbs
if
up,
somebody,
so thank you for whoever gave us a thumbs up.
and I would
Please,
like
if you're watching, let us know where you're watching from and say hi.
and also questions. If anybody's got any question, we don't mind what the question is. You can ask any question you like. It doesn't have to even be board game specific. You can ask me about my elephants if you like. But anyway, we live in South Africa, and I spoke to somebody a couple of days ago, and they were like, "Wow, you live in South Africa." And I thought, oh, maybe there'll be people when we do the live streaming that would be interested in something about the fact that we live in South Africa. To us, it's just our home. But anyway, if you've got questions, we wanted to ask people to put the word question in capital letters or something so that we can pick it up.
Or just Q dash then your question, because it just makes it easy to pull it out of the chat.
And you know what we'll do if we don't get to questions? You can always attend to them afterwards, can't you?
You can always just, if your question isn't answered, just leave it in the comments of the video and I'll answer it there.
Put it in the comments on the YouTube video. Right. Anyway, that is what was, that is the game that broke me on Mars. And now back to the collectors corner factor. We like space-themed games. Just like we like cooperative games. Well, cooperative games definitely my
Lord of the Rings games as well, obviously.
Yes, obviously. But space themes. So you see, we've got a collection of space-themed games. And On Mars is in that collection, obviously, because of it being space. And when my brain is back together and when I feel brave enough to go back to On Mars and see if I can play that game again. But in the meantime, what Jamie's doing is he's thoroughly going through the rule book and checking. And we've
playing
got
it solo a few times. Yeah, we've got the Alien Invasion expansion for that. We've really gone off the rails on our Lord of the Rings card game video.
We're talking about On Mars. We're headed off to Mars right now. And we left Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And now we're on Mars.
Just jumped on a rocket and left it behind.
Yeah, we'll go back to Middle Earth just now. But, basically our Middle Earth, we spoke about the card game. Yeah. The next Collector's Corner, we'll carry on with the next.
Because we've got some more Lord of the Rings games to talk about.
Just a few, But, it is also about this Collector's Corner and the fact that we enjoy being collectors. So
so back on Mars thing, we do have the Alien Invasion expansion, which makes the game somewhat cooperative. Which they mean by
what
it's
do you
basically
mean somewhat. I thought it made it cooperative.
It's a somewhat cooperative expansion.
Is that what it says on the box?
On the box.
A somewhat cooperative.
Basically meaning that there's 4 scenarios in the box. 2 of them are co-op, 1 of them is solo, and 1 of them is a 1 versus many.
Okay.
So it's not a fully cooperative expansion because there are elements of it that are not fully co-op.
Right. So
but apparently, from what I've read, the expansion actually makes the game a little bit easier and a little bit quicker, which I find a bit confusing. Usually expansions for these games make them longer and more complicated.
Yeah.
So I'll see. I have to dabble with that a bit more to find out.
So when Jamie's ready and he's gone through the rules and we can sit down and play On Mars cooperatively, then maybe I'll be able to do it. Our brain can all be back together again. But when I just look at the game now, I have that physiological problem, that moment of brain collapse. Okay, but as you say, we went off the topic of Lord of the Rings. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with regard to this particular episode of the Lord?
Not specifically, I think we pretty much hit all the main points on that.
I haven't, as I said, I haven't been a big involved in the card game. I played it a lot in the beginning and I haven't gone back to it since.
I played the first few scenarios quite a lot. You haven't played through the Hobbit expansions, although I suppose there's lots of spiders.
Yeah, I don't. I'm actually not. I don't have a fear of spiders. In fact, do you know what happened this morning? I went into the vegetable garden and I said to Dad, "Careful, there's a big spider's web over there, right?" And it had this like really unusual looking spider in the middle. It's been there for ages. And so I say to Dad, be careful, don't disturb the spider. And then I walk straight into it. And the spider was like hanging over here. I walked into the spider's web. And I'm not actually afraid of spiders or anything like that, you know. I appreciate them. They eat the mozzies. But that spider in the movies and in all of the, it's just too much. It's just no. It's just too graphic for me.
Well, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, I know. So, that, like, even if it wasn't a spider, if it was some other awful monster thing.
It's just a big, horrible monster creature.
Yes, no, I don't like.
Yeah, you don't like big, horrible monster creatures in general.
So guess what? We don't have much in our collection that have horrible monsters in them. No, our collection is pretty tame in that
And the few that we do have, I play solo.
Yes. We got, talking about collection, it's got nothing to do with Lord of the Rings, but what is that game we got? Jaws of the Lion.
Oh yeah, the Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, the little baby Gloomhaven.
So, I was going to play it with Jamie, and after one game I said, okay, you're on your own. And out I was of that game. And he carried on. You haven't finished it though, have you?
No. I keep meaning to, but other games keep on shoving in the line.
It was too gory for me. Ooh. No, yeah. So I have my specific taste, and other people enjoy that kind of thing, but no, not me specifically. Okay, so have we got any questions? I want to thank you.
Nobody's commenting, nobody's questioning.
It's nice to have somebody on the other side there. But who are you and where are you from? That's what I'd like to know. That would be nice.
That would be nice. To see where they're tuning in from. Because if they don't let us know, we're probably going to wrap this up pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up soon because we've chatted about our Collector's Corner for this podcast. Well, we're calling it a podcast, but it's not really a podcast. well, whatever. Whatever it's going to be.
We haven't quite figured out what this is.
No, what is it? Is it live streaming what? But it's a Collector's Corner. There we go. That's what it is. And we're going to do another one we're going to try to do these on
2
Thursdays.
weeks from now.
Once a fortnight.
Yep.
On a Thursday at this time.
And we're going to keep trying to live stream them and see how that goes.
You know why we're doing this live stream? We're very excited because, as we said at the beginning, it's our very first live streaming. And we're very pleased we can do it because we've waited for many years for our internet here in the country. We are not in the town, we're in the country. And so that makes internet very challenging. And so we had to wait until the internet could meet our needs. And we were very, very way down on the list of priorities when it comes to internet providers. But we are doing it now, and we think it's working.
It's finally just fast enough.
Yes, we need to ask them if it is actually working. Because we don't even know if it's glitching and if it's the sound is there and the...
We are recording this locally, so if it's all an absolute disaster, I do have a backup.
Yeah, and as we said, you're going to put it on YouTube as a video after. So people can go watch if they would like to. So I think that's it.
I think that's it. Nobody's saying anything,
so thank you for being there.
With that, we'll say thank you ever so much for watching, those of you who are there, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
I do too. Bye.